Yes, hello everyone. Welcome back to another review here on Clay with me, Séamus Brady, your host. For this one, I'm joined once again by Luke Peyton. It was a weekend like I don't think we've ever seen, Luke, in the GAA. Like, I mean, when we started this podcast, I mean, if you're going to say that, in like 3 years' time, the GAA are going to literally redefine the rules of the game, pretty much to the final one. They're going to change the scoring for everything. And like, a crazy weekend, but we also had some brilliant club championship action, which we'll jump into. But what have you made of the whole thing? Did you ever think that we'd see a day where a goal would be worth 4 points and there'd be 2-pointers and, buzzer beaters and everything in a game of Gaelic football at Croke Park?
Yeah, no, I think that's the bit. I think it's the scoring system is the bit that's the hardest bit to get around as well, a little bit. And yeah, no, I don't think I ever thought we'd see 4 for goal or 2 for 2 pointers. I thought that was kind of one of those sacred kind of things to the GAA, the 3-1, and I never thought we'd see another one like that as well. But yeah, no, I think it was it's a lot of food for thought as well, and we'll see what's passed. It's a really funny one in that nobody's fully agreed, I think, on any of the rules. Everyone kind of agrees that change is needed, but everyone
Yeah.
seems to differ a little bit on which change they like the most. Some people love the scoring arc, some people think that there's no need for it. Some people love the 3v3, and then others are saying like quite badly, like how does that work at club level? So there is a lot to iron out there. But no, look, I think I think that the final between Ulster and Connacht was probably needed. I think the rules committee are breathing a bit of a sigh of relief that we got that game at the end, and because I think after night one there was a bit of, I'd say they were a bit afraid that it wasn't going to go down well, and then the two games in the second day were definitely a good bit better. So yeah, I think as a result, I think a few will get through. We'll probably talk about which ones we like and which ones we think worked and which probably might get through Congress, and then some didn't really work as well. So yeah, but then again, everyone has a different opinion of what they considered working and what they did and what they consider not working too. So
Yeah. No, I completely agree. I think with these rules, like we'll dive in now. So this is the first topic of the show: is the Allianz Interprovincial Football Championships review. So a review of the competition, but then also a review of the new rules and which ones we liked and which ones maybe we would be tempted to switch up. Now, there's been rules that I've been screaming out for. The clock, the countdown clock for me, I've been screaming out for that for years. That went off without a hitch. I didn't think there was any issue with the clock at all. And when the hooter went, game was done. There was no questions of, how much added time was on and everything like that. And I think you could very much apply that down the levels. You could apply that in Parnell Park, for example, for the club championship matches in Dublin. Like, you could literally just get a stopwatch. When the watch goes, the game's up. That would be undeniable. So the biggest thing there is to look at what rules worked and try and take them forward. The only thing is that Jim Gavin pretty much said that if you take away one rule, it massively decreases the impact of other rules. And I was there on the Friday for the games. I wasn't there on the Saturday. I couldn't make it. But on the Friday, I found it really interesting because it felt like a game during the pandemic. It felt like something that only a select number of people were allowed to go, and you could hear the players talking to each other. And then because of the ref mic, you could hear the ref talking to the players as well. Felt very throwback to 2020 type vibes off the games. And it's difficult to kind of imagine what that game would have been like had there been a packed stadium there, because the reality is, like, I seen Michal Quirk did an interview with Balls today, really, really good. And he was basically saying, like, you check your phone during a football match. You wouldn't take your eyes off a hurling match. And Rory Began said the same thing. Rory Began said he went to the hurling final and couldn't take his eyes off the game. Was so hooked from minute one to the last minute of the game. And with the football, you can go out, get a pint, go out, get a cup of tea, come back, and you probably will have missed nothing. So, like, we do need to push it towards being entertaining. But at the same time, when it comes to these rules, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So, as you were saying about some people like this rule and they don't like this one. Some people like the scoring arc. Some people hate the scoring arc. Some people like the 3 up, 3 back. Some people hate that as well. Most people like the solo and go, but there's probably a couple of people that hate it as well. And the one thing as well that a lot of people definitely are pushing back on is the 4 points for a goal. And I agree with you. I think that was one of the GA's sacred lambs. I didn't think that ever touched the scoring system. My question to you after this is, do you think they're in a stronger position now that the games have been shown, or a slightly weaker position, or unchanged?
I think they've been strengthened by the final. I think the finish of it as well. I think that has actually given them a strong hand here now as well. I think, like I was saying, if it had finished after night one, I think they'd have been big trouble. I think they would have got maybe, yeah, I think they would have got maybe 2 or 3 of the smaller rules through, and that would have
Yeah.
been it. But like I think the fact that the 2 games on for the final were given, and I think they were really helped by the fact that there was a late drama at the end, that there was the 4 point goal was from like the flick, and that came as a result of the arc, and then the other one, I suppose, then there was the buzzer beater at the end as well, which added to it as well. But like, I do think as well you can see as well that they, by having Jim Gavin and then particularly Eamon Fitzmaurice on commentary, Eamon Fitzmaurice was fairly defending everything, I suppose. Like
Yeah.
it was kind of there. I know they wanted to have people on that were going to, I suppose, not be critical of it because they wanted to be a positive thing as well. But then I thought there was times when, like, it was nearly everything was was great and stuff a little bit, when there is stuff that can be ironed out too. But yeah, no, I think they are in a stronger spot. But like, I think watching it was a good spectacle for me. There was a few bits that, like, but again, it comes down to subjective as well. I think subjectively, I don't know about the 4 points either. I don't know if you were
Yeah.
just saying there as well, the 4 points too. Is that I don't I don't I don't see the need for it even as well. I think as well, I think the two, if you're gonna have the 2 point arc, I think that sucks the defenders out naturally, and it does that as well. I don't think the 4 point goal naturally encouraged more goals to be scored as well. I think for example, Ulster, I would say, largely ignored the scoring system and just tapped over
Just play it
points. They
on.
just tapped over 1 points the entire time and kind of ignored it. And then towards the end, Rian O'Neill kicked a few 2 pointers himself. But like, I'd say, from looking at it, that one, the 4 points, I don't fully see a need for it. Like, it didn't really impact the game, like ruin anything as well. Though the other one I find as an eyesore is, I find the mark advantage. I don't like that one personally, and
Really?
I thought that
I thought
there was
that
a
tweet definitely was better than what it was before.
it was I think it's better. It's the advantage part that I had the problem with. It was where it was played on for about 3 or 4 seconds, and then I think it was Chris Jones at one stage blazed one wide in the first game, and I think there was another example of it in the second game. I can't remember exactly who it was, but it went on for a good while, and it goes miles wide, and then all of a sudden it comes back. And the bit I couldn't get was the mark gets taken by your best free taker, not by the person who catches it.
Oh
And
wow.
yeah, and that
Yeah,
was
yeah,
because
that's a good
it
point.
was
I
when
forgot about that.
Killian Spillane was kicking marks that were won by Chris Jones, and I found that really puzzling. And then the other one I found puzzling was some in certain stages, I don't fully even understand this one completely, was that free takers were bringing their frees outside the scoring arc and being able to go for a 2, even though the foul had occurred further up as well, and they had the option to do that. So again, I think that's a bit nonsense, but like, again, maybe some people really like that one too.
Yeah, like I found it personally interesting because there's a few reels that, like, the minute I heard them, I really liked them. Like the minute I heard the solo and go, I was like, that's a
Yeah.
brilliant reel. That's
I
a
think
really,
everyone
really
was
good reel.
kind of in agreement that that one, I think,
Yeah.
worked well. And I think everybody was kind of saying that's one I'd expect to get through about 80-85%.
Yeah, no, that kept the game flowing, especially when teams turned over somebody. Like that they could just take a solo and keep going rather than wait 5 seconds, 10 seconds to take a free, which we all know they're just gonna tap it to someone else. And there was a cheeky moment where a defender gave the ball back to Paddy Small, and Paddy Small did a quick solo and go and ran through and stuck it over the bar. Like, it does make the game go a little bit quicker. The ref mics I thought were fantastic. Really, really good. They should keep them. I hope they do keep them, because with the ref mics, it's really interesting, because when it's left undisclosed as to what exactly that free was for, like, not everybody knows every single one of the referees' hand coordinations. Not everybody knows what the ref is pointing for or giving the free for. And when people don't know what the free is for, the fans make up their own minds as to what that free was for, and then they dispute the reason that they came to, or the conclusion that they came to. Having the mics is brilliant, because you can hear exactly what that free was given for and exactly what the referees' thoughts are on that piece of play. It's a really, really good introduction. I hope they introduce it for the championship in 2025, straight away. I hope they introduce it for the leagues, because it's a really, really good asset. A perfect example is Clare and Westmeath in the league last season. This is from Jason, a good friend of ours, does the Love Bread GA pod. And he was saying that everybody thought it was a square ball because the ref was just seen with his hand up giving a free out. Everybody thought it was a square ball that the ref had given a free out for, but the Clare player was not in the square. Jason said it was a push in the back on the Westmeath defender that the referee gave a free out for. But because the referee didn't disclose it, everybody just came to the conclusion that he had given a square ball, because it was one of those panned in goals where it's a bit of chaos. And if the referee had been mic'd up and we could look back on that and hear him say, push in the back on number 2, free out to Westmeath, you wouldn't have got the mess that came off the back of that situation.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think as well, it was one of those as well, is that it'll also encourage, it'll cut out like verbal abuse to referees too, because players are gonna know that they're
Mic'd
like,
up.
if they say something to a referee, everyone's gonna hear it too as well. I think I was kind of thinking this like the other day, was that there was no giving out to referees. I think the players were well aware that they were mic'd up and didn't want to be the first.
Oh no, someone let an F-bomb through.
Yeah.
It was on the Friday.
Yeah, but it's yeah, no, I think that's another definite. I think that'll definitely come true. But and as well, like, I think, yeah, it humanized them a bit more, and that, look, it's as well, there's a bit more clarity on why decisions were made. And I think there's a bit more understanding when people know kind of what the decision was, what's the logic behind it. And like, even there's gonna be mistakes as well going forward as well. But like, I think with the whole miking up and you see people's thought process as well, it's gonna be a positive impact. But I think that one's a definite. I think the tap and go is a definite. I really liked then, like, I really liked the 3-and-3 and how the 3-and-3 worked, but it's the problem with that one is just club level. I think intercounty, for me, that's an absolute, like, definite, that I'd say that worked really, really well, and that it actually encouraged a bit more direct ball, a bit more direct play, and it created a lot of space in around the 45 as well. I think that's what created most of the space. So I'd be definitely in favour of that one, but it's just, how the hell do you do it for a club referee?
That's true. I mean, like, it's getting to the stage where a lot of people are talking about, should it just be the old set of rules for the club championship games and the new set of rules for the inter-county games? And the more we're talking about it and the more we're putting it, into perspective and actually trying to talk about the logistics of sorting it out, the more I'm looking to, you should just have the old system of rules for the club championship games and the new system of rules for the inter-county games. Because if you're prioritizing entertainment and making it the most enjoyable sport to watch, well, then that the inter-county level is the best level for that. But I think when you look at something like the 40-meter scoring arc, like, it's all well and good having a 40-meter scoring arc in Croke Park, but you go down to some pitch in the back of nowhere, like, where the grass hasn't been cut in a month, and you try and put a 40-meter scoring arc on that pitch, and every player, like, make no mistake, every player who is anywhere near the 40-meter arc will be saying, ref, I was outside the 40-meter arc, that's 2 points. And referees will have to make big decisions, which could have big ramifications on whether or not a player was inside the arc or outside the arc, especially when it's not clear on the pitch. So for certain decisions like that, I'd be saying, you know what, go with that for the inter-county level, where the top class stadiums and top class pitches, and we can clearly see where the arc is. But on the club championship, I think maybe people need to be at least a little bit open to the idea that maybe we need to have the old set of rules for club and the new set of rules for inter-county, just like they have in rugby. They have different rules for the rugby league as they do for international rugby. They have different rules for college basketball than they do for the NBA. Like, there's different rules the players have to adapt to. I don't see why the GA couldn't do the same.
Yeah, because I saw another argument saying that, like, the teams will have, like, when it comes to championship games, that referees tend to bring their own linesmen to at club championship games as well. But then I think you're creating the same issue again, because at junior level, and if you go a couple of divisions down, there isn't that. Like, say, if you're looking at the Senior 1 Championship today in Dublin between, obviously, Crokes and Coola, they could easily, they could bring the rules in there, because there's about 10 officials and there's the referee has his own team of officials there. And look, in the Dublin Senior 1 Championship, absolutely, you could bring the rules into that for the championship. But, like, if you go and you look at Coola's third team today or something, if they were out playing this morning out somewhere on some pitch kind of that like they could be playing anywhere against anyone as well, and it's, again, it'll be just one referee there as well, and he won't do any team with him too. So I think a lot of people were saying that forget it for like the club leagues, just go with normal rules for that and bring it in for the club championship. But I think you're creating the same tiered issue again, where you're saying, senior club championship has it, but then junior club championship can't have it or something as well. So I think there is big issues with that, and I don't know. But this is the thing: is like the worst thing that can happen is that this is just brought in everywhere, and like junior players are just said, get on with it, just work it out. Like this, and there is, I do feel there is a little bit of this that with the football review committee, is that these are all inter-county players, and they're all in that mindset of either inter-county or elite club level, where they're playing senior club championship, where there's officials all over the place as well. But it's going to be an absolute train wreck. That if you look at even the Dublin club scene at the moment, referees are already hard enough to get as well. Even just down like divisions, anything like Division 5 below or anything like that as well, a refereeing job down there would be an absolute nightmare, and you're just going to be pushing people away from it. So, like, I think the worst thing they can do is just say, this is it, we bring them all in, get used to it. And like, so look, you'd like to think, I think what you say there as well, something along those lines, but they do have to think about it, because I think it's probably what would end up happening is that referees would just show up on the day and say that they're just playing the old rules.
Yeah, I agree. I think
the pitches aren't laid out. A referee is just going to show up and say the pitch isn't laid out. There's no arc. There's no nothing here. I don't have the facilities for it. We're just playing the normal rules.
Yeah, very true. I think as well, like, imagine a new team. Imagine if a club had got a new Astro pitch or something like that, and then it's told, by the way, you need to add in a 40-meter scoring arc. And you need the middle line to go the whole way across. Like, look, I think it's definitely good. And here's the main thing that I like about it, just to recap on it before we do move on to talk about the club games. I really like it. I really like the FRC, and I really like what Jim Gavin is doing, and I really like the group of people that he has assembled to take on this task. I mean, if they can't do it, I mean, I wouldn't really back many other people to be able to do it. You've got some of the best minds in the game all, coming together to sort this out. The reality is, for anybody that doesn't like it, they're trying. Like, they're trying. And as I said, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Some people actually like to see defensive football. I don't know why, but some people do. Some people like to see a good system. And the reality is one thing I noticed, especially in the Connacht and Leinster game, is when a team is outmatched with these new rules, you get battered. There's no there's no safety. There's no keeping the score down. Like, if you are not playing well, a team can run the score up on you very quickly. Like I remember at halftime being like, what, 118 to 4 points or something. I was like, Jesus Christ. Like Leinster nearly went the whole first quarter without scoring. Like Kevin Quinn landed one right at the death, and that saved them from a real embarrassing outcome. Because could you imagine if like Jim Gavin's province failed to score in the first quarter of the first game, showcasing these new rules and how it was going to be a breath of fresh air for attacking? They looked like they'd no idea. Connacht looked like they'd been training together for months. Leinster looked like they just met each other. Like Leinster didn't play together at all. Like it was very, very, very one-sided, that game. But as I said, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. I want to see attacking football. I want to be entertained. And especially if I was from Kerry or Donegal or Galway or Mayo and I made a long trip to Croke Park to watch my team and I had to sort out accommodation and pay for petrol and get down to Dublin and arrange everything so I had the day off, and I get down there and you play hand pass and football around the pitch, I'd be losing my mind. So people want to be entertained. People want to see entertaining football. And the one thing you cannot deny is the scoreboards. There was a lot of scoring in that game. Lots and lots of scores. So if you put that as an All-Ireland final, could you imagine if Armagh Galway finished something similar, like 4-16 to 2-18? Could you imagine the atmosphere in the stadium then?
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's the opposite to what we have with hurling. I suppose the moment is the All-Ireland final this year in hurling was about 60 points combined as well. So like where it's like record scores and there's scores all over the place and everybody raves about it. But like I think what we need to look at is you look back at recent All-Ireland finals, you think Dublin against Mayo 2017. You look at the Galway Kerry game a couple of years back with the Shane Walsh Clifford shootout. You want to be, how do you get to that point again where games start looking like that? I think it's like, I don't think we need to rip up everything here as well. We don't need to go as extreme.
We do have a tendency to panic. Yeah. That is true. We do have a tendency to panic.
I think there's some stuff like that as well. As I don't think we need to be going to 4-point goals and stuff like that as well. I think we have a good game there, and like a few things like at inter-county level, that the 3v3 is there's not an issue with that at inter-county, and that it won't be a problem. We have enough people there that there's stuff like that, and we can keep bodies up and everything as well. If they want to keep the scoring arc, I wouldn't be good if they kept the scoring arc, to be honest, because I do see the merit in it too as well, and it does make things interesting as well. So, like, I do think.
Well, it does mean you have to push out. It does mean you have to push out.
Yeah, and I do think like there is merit to it, and I thought it was entertaining. There were scores all over the place as well, and there's definitely a few tweaks that they can definitely work on. Like the other one, just while I'm thinking of it, the throw in at halftime was definitely a flaw as well, where that they have the two lads on the sidelines and then the fella that's running onto the ball with the two lads coming to throw face them won the break nearly every single time and twice ran through for scores as well. So that one's I know that you get the ball and they swap it each half, but like that kind of did seem like there was a bit of a problem with that one. But now, look, you have to say fair play to them that they've come up with this, and you know what, it did lend to entertain and stuff, and like, but now we've got the whole rigmarole of Congress now, and who knows what they'll do.
And the reality is, like, you could have the most perfect rules, you could have the most amazing games, and you would still have people that would just side against it because this isn't the way that it has been. People like the way that Gaelic football has been over the last decades. Look, the reality is, I wouldn't have gone as extreme. I'm you know me, like I'm not the type to just say I don't like this and not suggest a solution. I always suggest what my preference in this particular moment in time would be. My preference would have been definitely the countdown clock, definitely the referee mics, definitely the solo and go, and then apart from that, keep everything the same and do a shot clock. Because I think the shot clock would actually fix a lot of the issues that you are talking about. If teams had a 2-minute shot clock from the minute they turn the ball over, they had 2 minutes to work something. naturally you would start to move your forwards up the pitch. You know what I mean? Naturally, you would think, okay, we can't keep going back and going forward, going back and going forward. We can't keep doing that. So we need to keep people up there that we can kick the ball to. And I would actually genuinely, for anybody who thinks I'm talking absolute waffle, watch a game in the 90s and see if a team holds onto the ball for 2 minutes. Just see if a team holds onto the ball for 2 minutes. Very unlikely. You got that ball, you booted it down the field. And it was more entertaining because I think it was crazy because I was talking to one of the lads in work and we were saying the average of scores is actually the same today, quite like nearly higher than it was in the 2000s. So the big difference is though is that you had battles back then. Like if Mayo were playing against Galway, you'd have Keith Higgins marking Porrick Joyce and they'd kick the ball into Joyce and it would be Joyce against Higgins. Do you get what I mean? Like you'd have Bernard Brogan being marked by Mark O'Shea. You'd be like, wow, that's going to be a good one. Kieran Whelan on Dara O'Shea and he'd kick it to the midfield and the two of them would go up for it. That doesn't happen anymore. It's zonal. It's 15 on 15 and individual battles are very, 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 very rare. Like we don't really see it. Chrissy McKay, David Clifford was a rare example last year of where like a man marker had gone onto the full forward. A full back was on a full forward. But we don't really see that anymore. And I would like to see that come back into the game. So to recap, I love the FRC. I love what they're doing. They've been very democratic as well about it. They've really, really listened to the fans and really, really listened to anybody that wants to have their say through their surveys, through their ways of gathering information. And I think they're going to do the same again because they're really, really, they do care about what the general consensus is online, what people are saying, are people entertained? And I think the more people are entertained, the better. There's a few tweaks I would make, but I would definitely implement a lot of what they've done because I was a lot more entertained watching that game than I was watching the All-Ireland final. So we have to, take the positives from that without doubt. Now, we will move on to the club championship games, which took place over this weekend. There's not as many. We're starting to quieten down. A few weeks ago, we literally had a situation where Matthew had his post for the Friday and the Saturday and the Sunday all needed him to go into the comments to write out the rest of the results. There were so many. But we'll start with a recap of today's club results and then we'll move on to Saturdays because today had the biggest result of the weekend. Kilmacud Crokes are knocked out. They're gone. They're not the Dublin champions this season. It's Coola who are the Dublin champions this season. Kilmacud Crokes' dynasty in Dublin has finally come to an end. And to be honest, I really didn't think it would. When you saw their team and you saw a full forward line of Paul Mannion, Paddy O'Connor and Shane Walsh, I was thinking there's no way Crokes lose this game. But Coola were exceptional and they got over the line, especially Michael Fitzsimons. I mean, what an absolute legend Nick Fitz is. Well deserving, finally, and quite remarkably, his first ever Dublin County Championship.
Yeah, and like his performance as well today was just
amazing.
Like picking two scores, hand passed one. There was the one where he hand passed the ball over the defender's head as well, collected again, hand passed over the bar again, and then kicking a score as well too. Some turnovers as well there. Jeez, he was I think he was very determined that he wasn't going to come out on the losing side today. But like I think as good as Cool have been throughout the championship through, I think it was all in hope really that they'd give Crokes a game a little bit. I think everyone expected Crokes too much that they'd have the arm wrestle for them as well. And then you see that finish how it went today. Cool had played so well throughout and it looked like they were going to do it. And then a bit of magic from Mannion that like out in the sideline, solos with the ball anyway as well. And that loop pass the other side over to Luke Ward, who buries it, and then straight up the other end of the field, Conor Collins got involved with the goalkeeper for Crokes, and all of a sudden he's sent off too. And you're saying, well, they gave it a good go, and that's that. But like Jesus, yeah, they Cooler really dug in, and they come out on the right side of it, and I think a lot of people will be quite happy with to see a new winner in Dublin, and like, look, I think Crokes in Dublin, they get a fair bit now of where people say that it's that I think a lot of people be happy to see a team where all the players coming through their juvenile system as well, and they're getting a win. Cool, and like I think it has left a bit of a sour taste. Like there's 2 new additions in there as well. Paddy O'Connor full forward, and the goalie coming up, Devin Burns coming up from
Yeah.
Kerry as well. Like it's just really super team, and of course for them, like they're not gonna say turn away any player coming up as well. But it was getting a little bit, the players coming to Dublin all just wanted to play for Crokes a little bit. So like to see a team like Coola with all players coming through their own juvenile system as well, to get a win like that and the performance what they did, I think it is quite refreshing for Dublin club football as well. And like as well, a team that's not been renowned with winning club football championships as well too. So it's a huge result for them.
It absolutely is, and I agree with you. Like, it's always good for a county championship when a new team comes along and challenges the status quo and finally manages to beat them. And Coola were successful in this game by the minimum, 14 points to 110, a real battle at the end. And yeah, just the way they kept their composure, man, because like when Luke Ward gets that goal, brilliant finish as well, Con gets sent off. Like, I was thinking there's no way that Kilmacud don't win this game. And the way Coola held their composure, as you said, dug in and fought it out to the end and found a way to win, was just remarkable composure for a team that, as you said, isn't, familiar with being in county football finals. Kilmacud are the team that have all the experience, but Coola held their nerves so well when it was all going off in those final few minutes. They're always known, especially outside Dublin, as being a bit of a hurling club, but this now stamps them as being a club that can do it all. And like, what an incredible achievement. And to do it the hard way as well, because Kilmacud, as you said, had strengthened. They picked up Paddy O'Connor and Devin Burns. They're actually a better team on paper this year than they were last year. So Coola slayed the dragon to take the treasure, no doubt about it. And this will shake up the whole club championship, though, because I mean, especially in Leinster, you're looking at Naas maybe might perk up and be like, well, Kilmacud are gone. Like, Coola aren't as experienced as Crokes when it comes to the Leinster Championship. And like, it felt like Kilmacud, especially last year in the Leinster Championship, they were like, yeah, we've been here before. We just kick this into cruise control and get into the All-Ireland semi-final. Whereas Coola are going to be a little bit more vulnerable to be caught on the hop, I would say, rather than Kilmacud were.
Yeah, I think so. And look, you could see with Coola style were they're a very strong running team, I think. And that, like, I think over the course of the game, 6 of the 14 points were hand passed over the bar. And so they very much are a running team, and that they have a lot of pace in there as well. They have 2 huge midfielders, like Kofi Byrne and Peter Duffy as well. And then their kind of players around them run off them as well. So it'll be interesting how that translates into the Leinster Club Championship as well. I think in Leinster itself, that sort of style tends to get you through. How it worked with Kilmacud the last couple of years was that they'd open up more as they got away from the kind of onto the better pitches, and as the weather got a little bit better, they'd get better. But like that's the thing. I think Coola will be suited a little bit. They'll be without Con for the first round of Leinster as well, so that'll be a challenge for them too. But like, I think it was you could see their style, and that they defend really well. They break at speed too, and the 3 lads in the full forward line, the 2 Calhoun's and Luke Heaton in there as well. They are dangerous in there too, that they can play off with the running game as well. And just one other thing as well, like from the team I was involved coaching last year, Charlie McMorrow at 6 was playing minor football against us last year and the team I was with, and for him to go straight into centre half back in a club championship and to play as well as he did, like, he's an unbelievable prospect. You look at Theo Clancy on the other side, he's like a few years older than him as well, which is mad to say. So, but like, for him to play at 6 year 1, geez, we were watching last year against them, and it's a huge that step up to go straight into the senior championship final as well, and to play as well as he did. Like, I'm sure.
And kick the opener as well.
Yeah,
a brilliant opening point.
Score too, yeah, and like, I think it's a name for Dublin fans to keep an ear out for over the next few years.
I would definitely agree. I think you're looking at Theo at 3 and Charlie at 6, and that's going to be Dublin's spine of the defence, over the next 10 years. Like, if the 2 lads are willing to stick it out and keep it there, because I really can't see who's going to replace Theo Clancy. Like, Theo Clancy, one of the most natural fullbacks I've seen emerge onto the scene anyway for Dublin. We have a question in here, well, a comment in here, sorry, from Sam McGowan. He says, so ironically, the Northern boys who love a bit of quote unquote negative football won out over the weekend with the new rules. Absolutely. I mean, the interesting thing is, again, that's just people sticking to a narrative. And like the reality is every single team plays attacking football and defensive football. And I've always looked at it and been like, that that just came from bitterness, I would say, in the 2000s when Tyrone essentially took Kerry's ball off them, quite roughly, but took it off them and beat them in 3 big games in Croke Park, and Kerry just couldn't beat them. So I felt like since then, especially with Jim McGuinness as well, I've seen a lot of comments. Because this genuinely has annoyed me. I've seen a lot of comments of people saying, "Oh, Jim McGuinness ruined Gaelic football. Jim McGuinness did this, he did that," and I'm like, no, he didn't. Gaelic football was far too open for a manager to come in and do that. It was inevitable that a team was going to come along and play very defensive football. And spoiler, Jim McGuinness was certainly not the first manager to come along who played defensive football. I think if you're to look at it this way, the reality is the game was left very much up to the managers and the coaches as to what way they wanted to play the game. And as Pat Gilroy himself said after the 2011 All-Ireland semi-final, the game where Dublin played Donegal and won 8 points to 6, Pat Gilroy literally said that he admired that Donegal team because he was saying, why would you go out and leave a lot of space against a Dublin team that had just kicked 22 points against Tyrone in the quarterfinal? Saying he mapped out a way to win and how they were going to do it. And it nearly worked. And the reality is, with the new rules, what I've seen here is Leinster got battered by Connacht. Battered. Because they didn't have the same standard of players on the pitch, and with the lack of being able to put a few men between the ball and the goal, it's open season. And we might see a few absolute beatdowns with these new rules in play. I actually think, and I know I've gone completely off topic here, but I actually think that we could see the re-emergence of talk about championship structures being changed if these rules come in. Because I think if we see like even games where like Roscommon play against Leitrim or something, or Roscommon play against Sligo, where usually Sligo would have to play a little bit more defensive to keep up with them, we could see some real beatdowns over the next 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, no, I think so. And that's kind of why I was saying, like,
could you imagine what Dublin would do to teams in Leinster?
No, and that's the thing. It's like, and especially with this is why I was kind of saying earlier that, like, that we don't need to stray too far away from what we have as well, because, like, now you're right in saying like the 118-4, and that was between supposedly Connacht's, the pick of what Connacht had available and the pick of what Leinster had. So that was like with what should have been an equal enough standard as well. Could you imagine as well in where there's a complete mismatch, and then you've got the 4 points, you've the 2 point arc as well, and stuff? There would be some absolute demolition. So I don't think we need to stray too far away as well. I don't think we want as well fully just shootouts too. You want the contest as well, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I know, sorry, I've forgotten the name of who sent the comment in there as well, but like,
yeah,
we don't need to be straying away from styles of play as well too. And like, the reality is Ulster is where the best football is right now. Is that I think the standard
absolutely.
is probably is the highest in Ulster right now with the way football.
I mean, man, is it any surprise that the province that is the most competitive and the best province to watch won?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
And the one that was the worst was Leinster.
Yeah, and look, and that's the thing is like, and like I don't think we need this whole like that it has to be just entirely attacking football as well. Like, I liked some of the introductions in there as well, but now like I think it's a fair point as well, and that like Ulster football, it's the most competitive, and it is where the standard is the highest as well at the moment too. So, and look, we witnessed that at the weekend where, look, themselves and Connacht, there was nothing really between them. But then at the same time, the other thing was that the 4-point goal was the only reason Connacht were still in the game there as well. If you look at the
Yeah,
actual amount of scores in the game, Ulster fairly destroyed them in that game as well, and the 4-point goal kept them in it as well. But yeah, no, look, I know we've probably gone a little bit off topic here now, but like no, I think it's a fair enough point that have to give her the props to Ulster on it.
Yeah, no, 100%. They were the best team. I think they were the best team, and to see as well. One of the highlights of my weekend was to see Mark Bradley back strutting and stuff. I'd love to see him back in with Tyrone. He is a quality footballer. We have a couple of comments in here from Gavin O'Reilly. So Gavin says, exactly, over the years, Roscommon, Louth and Kildare were all closer to Dublin when they played defensive systems. They were. Like, if Louth clearly last season, their plan was to stay in the game as long as they could. I respect the hell out of it. Why would you go toe to toe when you went toe to toe last year? Because you believed in yourself a little bit. Just look at Kildare when Kildare beat Dublin in the league in 2022, wasn't it? And then the championship came around and Dublin bet the living daylights out of them because Kildare went man to man, left Con O'Callaghan 1-on-1 in the penalty box. And we all know the rest. So I do agree that, these rules, especially when people were talking about the interchanges and, how you can just run subs on and off. Oh, that is going to suit the bigger teams down to the ground. Like, Dublin will absolutely run riot with that, in my opinion. I think if you're looking at, like, even Dublin playing against, say, a Roscommon even. Like, Roscommon are really, really good, but they don't have the same depth that Dublin have. And they would be keeping the likes of Enda Smith and Diarmuid Murtagh and Brian Stack. They'd be keeping those lads on for a long periods of time, especially Enda Smith. You'd have people like John Small coming on, then going off for 10 minutes, and then they'd put Owen Merchant on him, and then they'd take him off, and then they'd put someone else on him. Always fresh, and I think it would highly, highly benefit the teams that have the biggest depth. Gavin as well says, Ulster literally won everything this year. It was in the stars that they were going to win the Railway Cup. And I think it's just, they just are the best this year. I mean, they've won the club championship with Glen. They have won the All-Ireland with Armagh. And their provincial championship, again, was the most competitive and most entertaining to watch. What we're going to do now at this point is run through the rest of Sunday's club results. And then, Luke, I will ask you to pick out which one jumps out off the page to you as being the one that caught your eye. So the Cork Premier Senior Hurling Championship Final, Imachilly 123, Sarsfields 17 points. Dublin Senior Football Final as well, as we discussed, Coola 14 points, Kilmacud Crokes 110. Roscommon Senior Football Final, Pádraig Pearses 111, Roscommon Gales 1-9. So Pearses are back on top in Roscommon after beating Bridget's earlier in the year. The Antrim Senior Hurling Final, Rurio Cushendall 116, Dunloy 212. The Offaly Senior Hurling Final, Kilcormac Colohy 16 points, Ballynamere 111. Adam Screeney, of course, was man of the match, hitting 10 points in that game. Cavan Senior Football Final, Crossarlock 2-6, Ramore United 4 points. The Meath Senior Football Final, Dunshaughlin 2-7, Wolf Tones 1-8. Tipperary Senior Football Final, Lockmore Castleiney 11 points, Clonmel Commercials 7 points. Louth Senior Football Final, RD St Mary's 2-2, Nave Martin 4 points. An absolute thriller there. Waterford Senior Football Final, Rathgormack 2-10, Ballinaccorty 8 points. And then Down Senior Hurling Final, St Pat's Portaferry 321, Ballygalget 215. London Senior Football Final, North London Shamrocks 110, St Kiernan's 1-8. Wexford Senior Hurling Semi-Final, St Anne's Rothangan 14 points, Shalmaliers 1-9, St Martin's 118, Naveana 10 points. Limerick Senior Football Semi-Final, Father Casey's 9 points, Mungret St Paul's 8. And then in the LGFA, the Ulster LGFA quarterfinals, Lurgan 6-11, St Trass 1-7, Clonairin 3-12, Kilnally 1-5. Leinster Senior LGFA quarterfinals, Eastdown 2-10, Dunshaughlin 2-7, Tinahilly 1-9, St Conleth's 1-5. Cork Senior LGFA Final, Iota 1-6, Éire 9 points. Iota win on free kicks. And the Munster Intermediate LGFA quarterfinal, St Albies 5-16, Nadesha 4 points, Kappa White 3-8, Éire Innis 1-5. That all happened today. And I'm going to give a massive shout out again to Matthew Hurley, the Gaelic Statsman. I don't know how he managed to get that out, but he has, and he gets it out every week. He's one of the best in the business. Give him a follow if you don't already. I'm going to suggest one that we talk about, which is the Tipperary Senior Football Final. Lockmore Castleiney 11 points, Clonmel Commercial 7 points. Lockmore have done the double in Tip again. They did it in 2021. They've done it now in 2024. That is an incredible achievement. to do the double again. And the difference is because when Crokes did the double, here's what a lot of people don't understand. Kilmacud have an entirely different team in hurling than they do in football. Lockmore Castellani, there's a lot of players in the hurling that are the key players in the football. So it's an incredible achievement.
Yeah, no, look, I think it's been widely documented, I suppose, this year that there's a lot of people asking like, oh, how did they go about doing it? It is genuinely 1 week on, 1 week off, and that it is essentially the same teams. They all train together. They do football 1 week, they do hurling the other week as well, and like it seemed kind of destined the stars this year. I think from early on in the hurling championship as well, you kind of knew that Lockmore were going to go all the way. Then the way the draw worked out as well, and they were playing with the way it worked. I suppose Toomevara in the final as well. They were hotly tipped for that too. They got through it. There was faced a bit of a challenge anyway, but then they were probably comfortable enough as well. I suppose they did need late goal to get through the hurling final, but like they were relatively had at arm's length most of the way. And then I suppose look, they're after winning. They won the arm wrestle in the football this week then as well. So like it's just an unbelievable achievement, and like they'll have to continue now week on week off as well going into Munster Championship too. And I'm looking at it as well, the hurling, they've a tough draw in the hurling. They do have a tough draw in the hurling. They're off first, but it looks like they'll be facing either Ballygunner or they'll be facing the winner of the Limerick Championship, so that could be Doon or Na Piarsaigh. So hurling, it's going to be a tough draw for them. And look at the football now, they've it's a good chance that maybe they might end up going further in the football than they do in the hurling. So yeah,
It's
no,
much
it's
more of a shark pit, in my opinion, in the hurling. Way more.
That's like you couldn't get a tougher, no matter who they face in that game. Like if it's either Ballygunner, Doon or Na Piarsaigh, like it's an absolute tough a game as you're gonna get anyway as well. They might be secretly looking at Ballygunner thinking that they owe them a bit. There was that famously a couple of years back where they felt very, very aggrieved, and rightfully so, because of a few decisions that went against them. They might be secretly hoping to get another crack at Ballygunner, but Jesus, like the thing with them is that like they have this spirit in them, and that they're never beat. They are just never beat. So like even if they go in, they probably on paper they might be a little bit mismatched against Ballygunner, but they're just never beat. So yeah, no, they'll be one to keep an eye on as well, and definitely a great story from the weekend.
Absolutely. Like I feel like when you look at them, you really have to finish Lockmore off. Like you really have to put the final nail in them, because if you are within shot of them, they do just never give up. And watching, even for example, when they were in the Tipperary hurling final, and Toomevara scored one of the best goals I've seen in a long time, Conor O'Mara, just a flick, like a piece of genius. And they just went straight down the other end and John McGrath scored the goal, his second one. I was like, Jesus, they really didn't flinch at all. They just went about their business. Very, very hard to rattle. And that translates for both codes. So that's an incredible achievement by Lockmore. And they are absolutely, in my opinion, the club of the year. Matthew was saying he's going to pick his club of the year later on. But for me, like that's done. Like if you win the double again for the second time in since 2021 and this year, it's an amazing achievement with the same group of players. It's unbelievable. And I agree. I think they could go further this time than they did last time in the Munster Championship. But yeah, we'll run through then Saturday's club results as well. So the Westmeath Senior Football Championship final replay. St. Lomans and the Downs finished level after extra time. St. Lomans 115, the Downs 212. St. Lomans won 3-0 on penalties. You literally could not separate these two teams. The Limerick Senior Football semi-final, Adair 2-9, Newcastle West 11 points. The Leitrim Hurling final, Carrick 118, Clooney Namanche 213. Leinster Senior LGFA quarter-final, Kilmacud Crokes 5-10, Naomh Kieran 7 points. The Leinster Intermediate LGFA prelims, Carrick Edmund 213, Kill 7 points. Bennycurry, Tinnerland 217, Carnew Emmets 2 points. O'Dwyer's 112, St. Joseph's 11 points. Ulster Intermediate LGFA prelim, an absolute annihilation here. Get ready for this. Mullahoran 8-15, Derry Noose 1-9. Leinster Junior LGFA prelims, St. Paul's 8-14, Rathvilly 1-3. Era O Greystone 6-10, Eden Terry 4-7. Kilcock 5-10, St. Bride's 1-10, Muckalee 3-10, Ballymore 1-15. Ulster Junior LGFA prelim, Owen Rua 4-10, Knockninny Gales 1-9, and the Connacht Junior LGFA quarterfinals, Coolera Strandhill 4-8, IMR 2-13, St. Fercy's 5-20, Phoenix St. Callins 2-9, and the Munster Junior LGFA quarterfinals, Abbey 5-13, Moyne Temple Tuhi 5-8, and Shamrocks 3-18, Crusheen 3-4. Now I know you're a salesman as well. Just seeing there on the Saturday as well, Kilmacud Crokes absolutely annihilating Naomh Kieran in the first round of the Leinster LGFA Club Championship. Like, I was there at that game in Parnell Park. I thought these were very hard done by, to be honest, with some big decisions. Crokes got over the line by 1 point. That could be Sills, and I would be confident that Sills would have, also taken that and probably won the Leinster Championship too.
Yeah, no, look, and they were unfortunate. I suppose they're probably point up. We're going into added time there into the at the end. Like Crokes had a bit more know-how, and like it's kind of like how you thought the final was going to go today against Coola, was that Crokes then have a bit. I suppose that they've in both kind of the men's game and the ladies game, they've been there, done that the last couple of years as well. You just think in those type arm wrestles, like Phil's not been in finals recently. Came down to a bit of experience at the end as well. They always thought it was going to go that way. I think, I suppose that they're probably looking on a little bit, ruin it a bit. But look, they'll hopefully get back to the forward line is getting a bit old for Sills too, though. A little bit like Bar Kate Sullivan there as well. Like, I suppose.
Yeah, you're looking at
they've been around a while, so we'll see if they get back to another one. But they'll probably be looking on ruining it a little bit. But sure. Look, Crokes be hard stopped, I suppose, and that they'll be looking beyond Leinster as well in that competition now.
I agree. Yeah, I think Crokes are going to be quite hard to stop now that they've got out of Dublin. Kilkerran and Clonberne are obviously the team to knock off. Their purse. They've been unbelievable and are dominant champions in the club LGFA scene. On the Saturday as well, obviously the big result was as well the Westmeath final. Eventually, St. Lomans coming out on top. When I was talking earlier about teams maybe perking up now the Kilmacud Crokes are gone, St. Lomans would be one of those teams that'd be putting in that bracket.
Oh, absolutely, and like again, sure they've come out from Westmeath how many times as well, like so, like they'll absolutely be looking at it too, and I suppose as well you're looking at the other teams in Leinster as well. They're probably going to be putting themselves in the category with Naas of teams that like they've been around in recent years as well, that they will look, they'll be fully targeting it as well, and it's going to be very interesting provincial now this year as well. I have to look into how the draws looking and what counties have against each other as well, but I don't know if you know off the top of your head who Coola have, but like Coola in Leinster will be a really interesting prospect now, but like it's going to be an absolute bear pit. I think you're right in saying though that Naas will probably be going in as probably the favourites in there as well. The other one I think is Port Arlington are probably the last couple of years. They've been there getting out of Laois consistently as well. They've had a bit of joy in the Leinster Championship too, and as well they seem to be getting a couple of fellas that were away are coming back at the right time too. So I think it was Robbie Piggott was in there the last day for the final, and they're just getting players back at the right time as well. So I think I think Lomans, they'll be putting themselves in that category. In that it'll be a funny one that I think the Dublin champions won't be going in as the favourites, and the Dublin champions are probably going to be behind the likes of Lomans, Port Arlington and Naas in the pecking order straight away as well. And sure, like there's a lot of teams we're not mentioning there too that that'll be fancying their chances as well.
Certainly, and the fact like once a dominant team gets knocked out, it opens up like a garden path for everybody else. So yeah, a big weekend, not just in the club championship, but potentially in the history of the GAA as well, because we're talking about the FRC rules. We got to see them for the first time in the Allianz Interprovincial Football Championships. Put in the comments below what was your highlight of the weekend, which club game jumped out to you as being the main one. I'll respond to all of them. And yeah, thank you to Luke for jumping on for another episode. Thank you to everybody who threw in the comments. We've one more here from Gavin just before we wrap up. Gavin says, awful weather in the Hyde today, but Pearses did the job. They could go far like in 2021 and get to the semi, but Connacht weirdly has but weirdly, between Roscommon and Galway clubs this year is the Galway's club. Yeah, like, I feel like when you look at like Moycullen, Currafin, whoever comes out of that one will be very, very difficult to beat. And I feel like, yeah, like especially now, I wouldn't fancy playing against Porrick Pierces. Like they're very, very good.
I think the club scene, I suppose, in Galway and Roscommon just seems to see that little bit further ahead. That like the last couple of years, they have the club champions coming out of Roscommon and Galway. They've been just that bit ahead of Mayo in recent years. Mayo's
I
kind of
remember
been a bit
seeing
more.
Moycullen wipe the floor with Westport a couple of years ago, and I couldn't believe that.
The talent seems to be more spread out in Mayo at the moment a bit. There's no dominant team in Mayo football at the moment as well, and it just seems that the upper echelon of both Roscommon and Galway has been a bit better than the last couple of years. Like Pearsons and Bridget's have been fairly strong the last couple of years there as well, and there's about 3 teams in Roscommon that have been dominating, I suppose, the club championship the last couple of years as well, and giving it a good crack coming out every time as well. So look, Pearsons, I suppose, backbone by the Dailies, David Murray there at the back as well. They maybe don't have the big name forwards, but they're really, really solid side. They don't concede a lot, very, very hard to beat, and especially the way time of the year club championship games are played as well. It's going to be a dogfight against them as well. So look, if they can get enough scores on the board, they're not going to concede many. So yeah, no, I think between them and sure, we'll see with Galway what happens in Galway. So yeah, no, look, I think it's one to keep an eye on. They'll be the 2, I'd imagine.
Yeah. Well, I'm definitely looking forward to it anyway. And that's another episode in the books here on Cluiche. Thank you so much to anybody that put in a comment during the show. Thank you to Luke for jumping on for another episode. Thank you to you for tuning in for another week. We will be back next weekend as well after another crazy weekend, I imagine, in the club championships. Until then, ta-ra.